Courtenay, what we Mass Effect, it was one of the biggest game franchises in recent history. How did you become involved in that?
I actually I auditioned. Forgive me if you were here yesterday and you heard a few things. I'll try and spice it up a little, give you a little extra info. I auditioned for Dragon Age. I did a couple of auditions that I really, really wanted with BioWare, and I kept going back and auditioning for them, and I kept not getting the parts. And so I was like, what is the deal? Like, why don't they like me? And they liked me a little bit, but not enough to give me the job. So then I auditioned for the part of Jack, and now I look back and go, oh, it was perfect, because if I had ended up being something else, I probably wouldn't have gotten Jack, and I feel like Jack was perfect. So I just auditioned, and finally I guess they felt sorry for me and were like, oh, we'll give her a part.
I'm sure it was more than that, let's be honest.
It was my lovely swearing capabilities. I can really drop an F-bomb with authority, so.
In multiple languages, it's all good.
Exactly, indeed.
And in terms of Mass Effect, when you first went for the audition, did you kind of realize how big Mass Effect was and how popular the game was?
Nope, I had no idea. I had not a clue about Mass Effect. I don't even think I had a clue while we were doing it, and I didn't go to Comic Con that year. I didn't realize that the Mass Effect fans were so intense, and then I think around the time that we dropped Mass Effect 3 was when I started going to conventions and stuff, and I remember going to the release party for Mass Effect 3, and there was a line around the block, and I went into the GameStop store, but I was like walking up and I was like, well, what are all these people doing here? Like, and everyone's like, it's for your game. And so, but you know, Jennifer Hale was there and Allie Hillis, so it was their fans, but I rode their coattails for a while. It was nice.
It was your fans too, be honest. But in terms of games like Mass Effect and Resident Evil, which you've worked on as well, they've really helped change the game genre, because it used to be that people never got to see or meet the voice actors behind the character because there wasn't the level of usage as there is now. So do you think that that's made a real big change in the role that a voice actress has to play?
Yeah, I think that two things have happened. I think that because games have become more cinematic, they're more like movies, they're much more, the player is really immersed.
Yeah.
That I hope that you guys get the experience that you're actually, you know, in the game, you're part of the experience. And so it makes it, I think, a little bit more like television. When you watch a television show and then you see someone from the show, you're like, wait, I know you. And the reason that you know them is because they're in your living room every week when you're watching the television show. And so I think that effect has happened with games as well, where people are like, no, you've been on my squad, like, we're teammates. And so there's more curiosity from the fans. And then the writing for games has changed so much in the last really 5 years, where it does feel more like a movie, and the storylines of the characters are so much more interesting. So it's not just running around. I can't imagine that anybody's like, who is that woman screaming, grenade, get down, fire? It's not that interesting. But once you get involved in somebody's storyline, I'll use Jack as an example, she had such an intense storyline, then you feel, hopefully, like you know her, you know more about her, you want to know more about who she is. So, as opposed to like Soldier Number 3 in Call of Duty 4, which I think I was Soldier Number 2 in Call of Duty 2, but you know, it's not quite as interesting, I think, when it's a little more generic. So.
But do you think that the way because with the games getting more immersive, that people want to know more about the actual people behind the game as well?
Yes, and I think that, I think there's more of these conventions, and so we have more opportunity to be seen and meet people and become more similar to other types of acting. And I think that we all feel so lucky that we actually get to have, I think as voiceover actors and game actors, we have so much more opportunity on Twitter and Facebook to actually have friendships with our fans. I've seen people here who I've been talking to on Twitter for, I don't know, a couple of years, and I'm like, it's you! And so I feel like because we don't necessarily have to guard ourselves, because people don't know what we look like, it's not weird. Like, I can just go to the supermarket afterwards and it's not a big deal. But if I were an on-camera actor, then maybe that wouldn't be the case. So I feel like we're in the catbird seat because we can actually create relationships and really fully enjoy this experience just as much as you guys, as opposed to maybe someone who's in another medium who might want a little bit,
Right.
more. They're not as much fun as we are.
And in terms of the characters, a lot of people bond with the character as well, and then they cosplay the character as well. Have you actually met cosplayers that have done Jack, and what's your kind of feeling when you see the character in front of you?
I actually have never met a cosplayer that's played Jack until yesterday.
Wow.
I have been to a bunch of conventions in the last couple of years, and I always miss the people, but people send me pictures all the time of these like amazing pieces of art that people have done. There's like a 6-foot tall paper Jack that lights up on DeviantArt, things like that. But only yesterday did I meet a girl who was dressed as Jack from Mass Effect 3, and I freaked out and jumped up and hugged her, and I was so. It's a huge level of commitment, I think, to cosplay Jack. Like, you're getting tattoos and shaving things, and it's a lot, especially if you do Jack 2 with the thing. Yeah, the belt bra. I mean, that's love, right? I mean, yeah. But so I've only seen one. So if you see any, send them to me at the MYM stand. But I love getting pictures and seeing the level of what people will do. There's lots of Ada Wongs walking around as well too. It's a little easier to slip on some leather pants and a black wig, but I love them all.
In terms of Ada Wong, though, I mean, how did you know when he went for that role? Did you know anything about the Resident Evil franchise? Were you aware of the particular what you were getting into, in a sense?
I did know about the franchise. I did not know that all of Brazil loves Resident Evil. That was an interesting little fact I found out later. But when we went in to do that audition, I actually thought that the audition was going so badly that I actually almost was like, okay guys, yeah, this isn't really working, so thanks, but I'm gonna let the next person come in. But I didn't, because you should never do that in an audition. Just, play it through. But I was really, I knew about the franchise. I didn't know that much about Ada Wong, but I knew that it was a big deal, and I knew that they were reading a lot of people for that role. And I ended up getting the job, and I was completely gobsmacked because I didn't think it went very well, but it worked out.
And then after that, then you experienced all that success for that character as well. Was it kind of a bit of you weren't as surprised as you were for the Mass Effect, obviously, but were you how was that experience? Did it kind of differ, or was it similar?
It was different because Ada Wong was already a character, and so I was, during that experience, trying to keep in line with something that had already been established, whereas Jack was completely a sort of a compilation, between me and the writer. So, and Jack is much more ill-behaved, which is more like me, and so to actually be sort of sophisticated and smooth like Ada was actually much more challenging, and to stay in the parameters of Resident Evil as opposed to Jack, which was more kind of freeform Tourette's fun, because I could make her up as I went along.
Yeah.
So it was less of a challenge, but I liked both experiences equally. I did the facial capture for Ada Wong as well on Resident Evil 6, which made it really challenging because it wasn't just about trying to keep the voice a certain way. I was also looking at a television screen with the woman who did the motion capture for Ada Wong, trying to imitate what she was doing, but in reverse.
Oh, wow.
Because it's a reverse screen, and keep the voice, and be directed, and have the dots all over my face. And so that was a lot of this. There was a few breaks where I was like, I'm gonna just go take a break and sit in the bathroom and go like,
So how long did that process end up taking?
We worked on that game for about a year.
Wow.
It wasn't, we don't work every single day, obviously. You know, when you do facial capture, they render it and they send it to the illustrators. And so the illustrators work on it for a while and then you come back in, which is good in certain ways, but it's also hard because you can't really get into a groove. You're always kind of stopping and starting. And I had never done facial capture to somebody else already doing the motion capture. So it was a little back to front for me.
So it became,
it's challenging.
Became a mimic almost as well.
Sorry?
You learned the skill of becoming a mimic as well.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff that goes into the making of video games that you guys may not think about at times, but I went from sort of dismissing things to going like, there's way more work involved in these things than we think. So I'm a little, I give everything a pretty fair shake now because there's a lot of people working really hard on all these games. So
now the chance for you to ask a question. If you've got a question you'd like to ask, feel free to stick your hand up and I'll bring the microphone around to you. Already straight off, hands flying up now.
He's
look.
like, me?
I'll start over here.
If you could romance any member of the Normandy crew, who would it be?
Oh.
I can romance anyone. Well, I happen to have a huge crush on the guy, and I'm sure we'll keep it in this room. But the guy who plays Thane, he's just as awesome in person as he is as Thane. He's also happily married with children, but I love him so much. So it would probably be him, because he's talented and funny and amazing, and he's directed me in a few video games. He's an actor and a director. His name is Keith Farley. I love you, Keith. Okay. That's the short answer. And I might take Femshep for a spin, just because, why not?
Okay, and next question for the gentleman here.
How much creative control and input did you have into the character of Jack? Because obviously Jack's quite a powerful character. I mean, were you restricted, or was it your creativity, your input kind of thing?
Can you say the first part again? Sorry, I could just hear that.
How much creative input did you have into the character of Jack? Were you restricted, or was it all your own input? Because she's quite a powerful character.
She was written like that. Actually, it's the guy who wrote Jack for Mass Effect 2 is named Brian Kindregan, and he wrote her pretty much the way, like, the storyline was in place. There wasn't a lot of improv, but the way that she was written, I've never picked up a character like that where I was like, wow, it's like I would have written her. I would walk into the booth and we wouldn't actually have to do that many takes because it was just simpatico between the two of us. And he's actually written a few other things that I've done, and he just has a really good way, and I think he put so much time and effort into thinking about her storyline. And then I just sort of drew on the fact that when I was in high school, I was a punk rocker and I ran away from home, and so there were things in my life that I could kind of draw on that weren't exactly like Jack's circumstances, but that I could kind of exaggerate those. And I definitely had a little anger management problem in my youth, so it was right there.
And was it your gentleman next to me as well?
Jack or Raider? Which one do you prefer?
That's like asking what your favourite child is, isn't it?
I know. Well, it just depends. You know, honestly, to be totally honest, Jack is closer to who I am by far. But I, as an actor, really appreciated doing the role of Ada Wong. Totally stretched my capabilities, and so I appreciated the challenge of doing something that was so much further. She's nothing like me, so it really was like, you know, like a really great pair of high heels that might not be the most comfortable to walk in versus like your Doc Martens. You know, they're both awesome. You just don't wear them both at the same time.
I have a question from the gentleman here.
I was just wondering how you got into voice acting, like to begin with.
I actually was going to. I used to run a boxing gym. There's the anger management thing again. I used to run a boxing gym, and I also went to theater school at the same time. And I was applying for a master's program. And I would teach these huge boxing classes without a microphone, and I would scream all the time, and I got really bad vocal cord nodes. And so when I went in to do my Shakespearean audition for this program, the guy basically laughed at me and was like, I would never accept your application for this program because your voice is terrible. And so I left in tears, and I went to my teacher, my voice and speech teacher, and she said, I think you have a pretty cool voice. You could do voiceover. And I was like, I don't even know what that is. And so I took a class, and I just loved it. And as a kid, I used to sing commercials all the time. I would sing the jingles, and I would memorize all the stuff. And I was like, I have been doing voiceover my entire life. I just didn't know what it was. And so I just started from there, and it stuck.
Right, and a question for Jack. The next one.
Hey, what's the top few games that you've done that you've liked the most?
What are the top few games
That you've done that you like the most?
that I like most? Let's see. Well, I did Knights of the Old Republic. I played a character named Juhani, who was a Jedi. So that was one of my favorites. She was, I think, the second video game that I did, and it was for George Lucas, so that was, pretty major. And actually, I used to teach boxing classes at the Lucas Ranch. And they had me come out there during lunchtime and teach the people that worked there, like boxing fitness classes. And I remember walking through there and being like, I am gonna work for him one day. I don't know what I'm gonna do, but it's not gonna be teaching boxing. And I ended up working on Knights of the Old Republic and the Old Republic. So those were pretty sweet. And I did a game called Vampires Masquerade. And there was a character that I did that was sort of the precursor to Jack. Her name was Damsel, and she also had a swearing problem. And I got to that was the first game where I got to play like a bunch of different characters. I played like an old meter maid lady named Doris who was from New York. And so that was where I kind of got the idea of like, wow, you could do all kinds of really great characters all in the same game. This is perfect. So those are a couple that I really loved. That was a great question. Thank you.
In a similar vein, are there any video game characters that you've seen or roles that you would like to play?
Pick anything on Game of Thrones. Cersei, love. Which is funny because there was a list of some people are doing their dream castings on IMDb for Mass Effect, on-camera actors that they would choose. And Lena Headey,
Yep.
Is that her name? Right? She plays Cersei. Somebody said that she should play Jack, and I was like, that'd be pretty cool. We could switch.
You'd be like praying for the schedules to clash on Game of Thrones.
Exactly.
If you just
Exactly.
take over
I'll
the
do a
world.
walk-on. I'll do anything. I'll just, rub some dirt on me and then put me in a hemp sack, and I'll just walk through.
Right, if you have a question, please feel free to keep your hands up so I can know, because I did see some other ones go up, but I seem to put them down. But if, in terms of gaming though, are you yourself a gamer? Do you game much?
No. I mean, I try, but it's really bad. I went to a con where we were playing, they were previewing Titanfall, I think it was.
Yeah.
And afterwards, there was a big dance downstairs. All the fans were having like a prom. And so I went down there to hang out, and I was swing dancing with this guy, and he's like, wow, he's like, you're so much better of a dancer than you are a gamer, because I just watched you play Titanfall and you suck. And I was like, I know. I don't have the thumb dexterity, I will sit and watch other people play, but the amount of time that it will take me to actually become good. I started playing Assassin's Creed 3 and was very excited once I realized that I could punch people in the face and take their wallets. And so I basically just did that. And after a while, everyone was like, you know, you have a quest, right? And I'm like, give me your money, And they're like, you're punching priests. Can you move on and just get to where you're going? And I'm like, okay. So I get, caught up in the cash flow of the games.
So you've never played been yourself playing any of the other characters that you've done then?
I have played Resident Evil, but I can't get to the level where you can play Ada because it takes forever. And it's really distracting to play with your voice. I like playing with other, because I can hear my friends' voices, and I'll be like, oh yeah, I'll be Roger Craig Smith, or I'll be Troy Baker. And so it's more fun. If I hear my voice, I just go, ugh. Really? They used that take? Really? You couldn't have done better? Come on.
So we've got time for one more question for Courtney. Who's going to be the one
Anyone?
that's going to ask the final question, or shall it be me? Well, I love it when they all go quiet. You offer them that, they
Cake
all...
or pie?
Yeah, they need to...
When in doubt, the best question, cake or pie?
Okay. Let's think of... Oh, the doctor's hand is edging up. Will he ask? Okay. Time Lord. When in
took
doubt...
pictures earlier.
When in doubt, always go to a Time Lord, is what I say.
Exactly.
Will we hear or see anything about Jack in Mass Effect 4 at all?
Ooh.
You gotta ask that question. I cannot tell you either way. I'm sorry, I hate this answer more than you guys probably do. We're signed to these non-disclosure agreements where if I actually said something, there would be like a puff of smoke and then I would just disappear. Like I wouldn't even be sitting here anymore. I'm not allowed to say. I'm so sorry.
Okay, then let's end with this one then. Coffee or tea?
Both.
Ooh, good question.
Both. I start out with a good cup of strong coffee in the morning and then I move to tea for the rest of the day because I'm half English. So
there you go.
My mother is from Nuneaton. If there's anyone from Nuneaton here. So I've been trained to drink both.
Wow. Yeah,
and I like cake, not pie.
See? Tea and cake then. You ever know what? If you're going to ever see Courtney today, tea and cake.
Exactly, and I'm over at the MYM stand, so if you can bring me some tea and cake, that would be great, because I've got really bad jet lag.
See, that would be the next commercial for you then. You'll be doing one for tea and then one for cake.
Thanks so much, you guys. It was great. I'm so happy I got to meet some of you guys over at the stand. Please come and say hi before you go, and thank you so much for having me.
Ladies and gentlemen, give a massive round of applause to the brilliant Courtenay Taylor.